It has been 90 days since the end of the last legislative session. That means that dozens of new laws go into effect today. That includes Governor Mills's supplemental budget, which provides $300 relief checks to more than 500,000 Mainers. The supplemental budget also includes funding to add safety measures for school buses and money for a new program that will require the Department of Public Safety to track rape kits. Other laws going into effect today include extending the state's affordable housing tax credit and limiting rent increases for mobile home parks. 4 new so-called ice out laws also going into effect today.
A lot of this legislation was drafted after Operation Catch of the Day in Maine this past winter. There are 2 laws on policing. One clarifies that Maine jails do not have to house people detained by ICE or Border Patrol. The other prevents local law enforcement from coordinating on most immigration operations. The law on housing prohibits landlords from sharing certain personal details, such as national origin. There are exceptions, including a warrant. The final law applies to schools and hospitals. It prevents staff from giving immigration agents access to non-public areas within the building or access to protected records without a warrant. This policy applies to all Mainers regardless of immigration status. Chief Counsel for the ACLU of Maine says these laws are directed at Maine, not the federal government.
We expect that ICE will continue to ignore the law and ignore the Constitution. That has become their modus operandi. But we expect more from people in Maine.
Places of worship, private schools, daycares, and public libraries do not have to abide by the new laws, but have the option to.
Tonight, the Scarborough Town Council is expected to vote on a proclamation and resolution calling on Maine's congressional delegation to at least consider relocating or closing the town's ICE facility. ICE does currently use the facility as a processing center. The resolution would also ask the delegation to advocate for more transparency regarding federal immigration enforcement. All of this in response to the death of Johan Guerrero, who was fatally shot earlier this month in Biddeford. Tonight's Scarborough Town Council meeting starts at 6 o'clock at the Scarborough Municipal Building, and you can find a link to attend remotely by going to the town's website.
Also today, an appeals court is set to hear arguments over a state law that would cap donations to political action committees, also known as super PACs. Back in 2024, Mainers approved Question 1 to cap annual contributions to PACs at $5,000. The law would also force people to disclose any contribution to PACs. Right now, donors contributing less than $50 to candidates or political committees do not have to disclose their identity. After the law was approved by voters, the group Dinner Table Action sued, saying it violates the First Amendment. A federal judge agreed, but the state filed an appeal soon after. Today's arguments are set to start at 9:30.
On the same day that President Trump honored late Senator Lindsey Graham, he also met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. NBC's Alice Barr has the latest from the Capitol.
Fresh fighting overnight in the Middle East, shattering a days-long pause in strikes. U.S. Central Command now saying it successfully knocked down a wave of Iranian missiles launched in an attempted surprise attack on American forces based in the Middle East. CENTCOM also saying the U.S. military joined with Saudi Arabia to strike Iran-aligned terrorists in Iraq that they say targeted U.S. forces and Saudi energy infrastructure with drones. It all comes just as President Trump had voiced optimism about progress in diplomatic talks, while again threatening more destruction if Iran doesn't agree to a long-term deal.
I could take out most of their bridges in less than an hour. All of their power plants would be gone.
Earlier Tuesday, the president met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who downplayed any friction over the allies' goals for the Iran war.
We have a common commitment. We don't want to see this fanatic regime in Tehran have nuclear weapons.
Also at the White House, President Trump separately hosted Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky, who then met with senators on Capitol Hill in his push for more American missile defense systems.
I shared what we need, our needs. I shared it with the president.
Both world leaders came to Washington for the funeral services for the late Senator Lindsey Graham.
He was a force of nature, and I will miss him
greatly.
And Tuesday night, the Senate voted to advance a sweeping Russia sanctions bill that Senator Graham had been pressing for and that now bears his name. In Washington, Alice Barr, NBC News.